Every town I cover a fight in has something special. Sheffield's no exception. They've got the university. I was at a press conference for Kell Brook and Errol Spence, and I met a young man named Oli, trying to break into the industry of journalism and cover the sport of boxing. He invited me down to Sheffield University to sit with him and talk to the kids about the profession we both love and the sport we're obsessed with.
I want to welcome Radio Rahim to the University of Sheffield studios. How are you feeling today on the Thursday of fight week for Brooke Spence?
Well, I've been in London a week before coming to Sheffield, a little bit over a week actually. Obviously, I was there for Gervonta Davis and Liam Walsh just last Saturday. And then I trained over on Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? Yeah. I trained over Wednesday morning, and it was a fantastic train ride. Like, people have a problem with these train rides. It was almost 2.5 hours. So when you hear about it, it's daunting. It's like, who wants to take a 2.5 hour train? But for me, we're cutting through the hillsides. Obviously, I always book a big, nice window, and I enjoyed the trip here. But I got to tell you, in London, people were cautioning me that Sheffield is a shithole. And it's a terrible, place where there's nothing to do, and, you're going to be miserable. It couldn't have been more the opposite.
It's not normally this sunny.
Fantastic time. This is not true. I don't believe you.
No, I promise you.
It's sunny like this every day. This is the Sheffield I know. I don't know the Sheffield that you're talking about.
You've got the best weather in Sheffield history. It's about 25, 30 degrees outside.
It's been this weather 100% of the time I've been to Sheffield. So it's just my word against yours at this point, and I've seen nothing different. So this is for me. Sheffield's a fantastic place, but it's not even about the weather. I don't even mind. I'm from the Bay Area, right? So we're used to fog and a little bit of rain and all of that. But the people here are fantastic. It's unbelievable. I don't even know why people slag it off. They should really stop being haters. And I'm saying this on the official record here at Sheffield University. Stop slagging off the community because it's an awesome spot. I'll tell you another thing. The reason I'm actually here in this university is because it's student radio. And I started in student radio. My first show was in high school, in fact. I'm not sure what you call high school here.
Yeah, same, high school.
It's okay. Because I know it's secondary school and all this stuff. So high school then, fine. And that was 10th grade for me. Had a radio station on my campus that had been dormant. So this thing, it had a 5-mile radius, and nobody was using it. It was literally a layer of dust on it in the basement of the high school. So I had found this out. And I convinced the student faculty and everybody to get together and open this station up. Did an after-school show, which is the first time I'd ever been broadcast on air in any way like that, other than calling up radio stations when I was a kid and talking to the DJs. And that's kind of how I started on a professional microphone, even though it was still student radio myself.
Yeah.
That was my first inroad into doing my own show and coming up with content and speaking to an audience. So whenever I'm able to support student radio and come to a campus like this where you've got young talent trying to break into the industry and find their voices and bring that voice to the community, I'm happy to do it. It's this is the highlight of fight week for me.
No, that's great. Thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure. So let's throw back to a couple of weeks ago. I imagine you flew in before the Joshua Klitschko fight, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so how was that for fight week for you guys? Obviously, doing your videos on the SecondsOut YouTube channel and then kind of getting to the fight week into the Wembley with 90,000 fans.
Let me tell you something about fight week for a fight that is of that magnitude. It's incredibly daunting, more so than normal. I mean, not this job, it's fun at the end of the day. On a Saturday, you get to be ringside at the fight. You're familiar with these athletes. You get to see all of these thrilling defeats and victories up close, but it's work. People think it's a dream job, and it could be. There's a lot, people work a lot harder than me, physical labor and all that, I understand. But if it's the job that you do, you have to understand that even in the dream job, it still requires the kind of commitment, the kind of dedication, the kind of long hours, the kind of aggravation that almost any other job would require at some point or another. And the bigger the fight, oftentimes, the more of all of those things there are. So even for me, who has a pretty good relationship with Anthony Joshua, I've worked with Matchroom on several fights now, I'm familiar with London, all those things being said, it's harder to get the interview. It's The press is more impacted by each other. The venues never are big enough to hold all the people that want to be a part of it. You're getting texts about tickets and whatnot. That you're never going to really be in a position to provide people tickets if you're the press. Like, that's a fallacy. You know, you have a press pass and you're
just
not
trying
the
to
kind of
get
guy.
yourself
Like,
in.
right. So all of these things become magnified, and you still, here's the point, got to deliver to the zenith, to the same degree that the level of the fight is, at least, if your job really is to supersede that even. But with all of these extra pressures, all this added competition, all of the more obstacles that now arise because the fight's so big and now the promoter is less accommodating, the fighters are less accommodating because the fight is bigger now and they need you less than they needed you before. With all those hurdles, you've got to deliver a superior product to what you deliver when the fight and the fighters and the promoters are working with you and it's an easier environment. So these are things, just, you know, as I know everyone, not everyone, but most people listening here are looking to get into the industry. These are the things that you need to remember and prepare for now.
The stakes are higher as well. So when you've got such a big fight week, if you miss that content, then it means more, because like if you miss the Anthony Joshua video, then that's big views for you guys and a big exposure. So in that aspect, it's huge. And so how do you kind of go around fight week? Do you tend to normally try and do it in the same way? Do you have like a strategy of who you want to get and so on and so forth?
Priorities. There's definitely priorities. Obviously, there's a main event. They call it the main event for a reason, because it's the reason everybody's there primarily. So you definitely want to get those guys. But what you don't want to do is the same thing everyone else is doing every time, right? So you're all dealing with the same fighters, the same trainers. It's, you know, it's the same event. So how do you find an angle in that event, or how do you come up with a body of work for that fight that separates itself out from the other 100 journalists that are covering the exact same event with the exact same principles? Therein lies your talent, your creativity. Your angle is predicated on your vision, your ability to see angles. So these kind of things could amount even to style. I can't impart to you the wisdom of how to do that because everybody's different. It's like, you know, asking somebody how to write a song. It's just, what's the song in your heart? You've got to find out what you think is unique about the fight or the event that you're covering, and then show why it's unique to the audience. And that's what I call an angle. There is your style.
Yeah, absolutely. So like for yesterday, we went down to the public workouts where we met, and we didn't have a press pass. Don't tell Matchroom this. But we walked up to security and we're like, "Hi, we're Sheffield Student Media. We're meant to be here.
Yeah.
Can we? Where do we get the press pass? Where do we pick up the press pass?" And kind of got in that way. And then kind of that's what it's all about. You've got to be creative for sure. But let's get on to the fights this weekend.
Listen, that's part of it. You got to do that when you have a press pass. Sometimes you got to get in the locker room that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've been in cars with guys leaving the fight like I'm one of the team, so I can get that interview. So yeah, that never stops, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, look, CBS, NBC, you know, I'm sure Sky News, they're jumping in with
sure.
MPs and, you know, the prime minister in spots they're not necessarily meant to be at, because something about being a press guy, you have to have that tenacity. Just because you got a pass around your neck doesn't mean that you're meant to only stay in the roped off areas. Now you got to get over that rope and find something new. That's part of the question you were asking before. How do you make it different? Tenacity, aggression, choose your battles. But when you choose one, win it.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been doing boxing for a long time. You're saying that you started off kind of boxing yourself at 15, and since then have got into the broadcast side. Why do you love boxing so much?
Well, I started boxing in 5th grade, right?
Okay.
That, as most sports come about for a young man anyway, somewhat by happenstance. You know, I'm walking home from school. There's a garage door open. It's got heavy bags hanging there. It's almost like some after-school special type of conversation we're having now, because, you know, there's an old guy in the room and he's training fighters and shouting at them and whatnot, and, you know, I was drawn to it like a moth to a flame. I mean, you know, it's just certain things that you're magnetized to, and I don't know what's in me necessarily on that day that was like, that, you know, I want to be in there, I want to be doing that. That just looked like the most awesome shit I'd seen my whole life, right? I'm in 5th grade, it's not that long a life, but I still agree with that statement here today. So something about boxing to me is magic. It's something that I'm drawn to. Like, I have to be a part of it. When I see it, I have to be there. It's not enough for me to watch it on TV. I got to be in that garage. You know,
yeah, you got to feel it.
Right. So that's where it started. But that not even in those days did I was ever dreaming of having a career as a fighter, much less a broadcaster that covers fights. Like that wasn't my thought. I just wanted to participate. I just liked the kind of guys that were in there and the attitudes that they had and the skills they were showing. So I just wanted to learn those skills. I really did approach the sport as a passion, not a profession. I approached it as, a lifestyle, not a hobby. I felt like this is my community. This is this is a world that I want to be a part of. So my career track and goals were very much separate from sports, much less boxing in particular. They grew together over time. That's a longer story. Maybe next time I'm in Sheffield, we'll do a whole show just on that story. But I'll give you the shorthand version. On the one hand, I'm shooting major motion pictures in the sense that I had started a career in the camera industry, the camera department. I was loading film back in the days before all this digital shit came around. We had actual film, and that's how movies were shot. And I was on a camera crew, and I was looking to be an operator, and I was hoping that one day I would be a director. I like to compose scenes and see things on camera and be a part of the creative process there, and I thought the camera department was my way of doing it. So that's work, and I would get up 2 hours before I had to be on set at 7 a.m. You got to be at set at 7 a.m. So I'm up at 4:30, out of the door by 5, so I can be at the boxing gym by 5:30, so I can train from 5:30 to 6:30, and then go to work from the boxing gym to work a 14-hour day on a movie set, which is, not for the faint of heart. That's a grueling, especially when you're a grunt, like a film loader. That's a grueling, nonstop, lift heavy cases, walk the whole, grounds for 14 hours kind of job. But that's how much I love the boxing, that it didn't even seem like as crazy as it sounds. Like I had to have that part of my day so that I could deal with the rest of my day. Yeah. And, over time,
it was your way of balancing it.
Yeah. Well, when it's a part of you, it's like something you have to do, really, like you say, to balance or just to clear your head. I can't go into work and deal with all those people and all these different kind of attitudes and my own attitude and all that without cleansing my soul and sweating out the crap from the day before. And that's what I was doing in that gym in that morning. So again, this is the shorthand version, but eventually I got to a point where I wanted to spend that time in the boxing gym, and I wanted to spend that time with my cameras. So the only thing I could do ultimately is bring my cameras to the boxing gym and figure out how to spin both of these two loves together. And I spun them together in a show called Gym Wars, which now you can all go Google. It was the very first boxing show on the internet to be wildly successful, in which I shot professional fighters, world-class athletes, going for heavyweight championships, middleweight championships, welterweight phenoms, and they were in the gym sparring each other, preparing for these events. And I was shooting it, and then I had a guy, Doug Fisher, ultimately. We did a show called Gym Wars, and I was calling it, like the Jim Lampley guy. And Doug Fisher was doing the color. He knew so much more at that time about the fighters than I did and their history, and he was filling in all the blanks and telling me and the audience who these guys were. And we did it as though you're watching something on, Sky Sports, or you're watching it at home on HBO. We shot this thing in a gym, a grimy gym with top athletes, and we shot it and put it out on the internet as though it were a broadcast fight on television. And it was wildly successful. And that's really where those two loves of mine met, and everything else, is in the rearview mirror history.
All right, so let's chat about the fights. This weekend you're in here, Sheffield, for the Brooke Spence card. Big fighter from the US, kind of starting to make his name in the sport against one of the UK's most recognisable fighters in Kell Brook. Why do you think Kell Brook chose to stay at welterweight and not move up? And two, how do you see these stars playing against each other?
I'll say I believe Kell Brook. I take him at his word. I think he worked a lifetime to get that welterweight strap off of Sean Porter's waist. Not Sean Porter in particular his whole life, but that's who had it when he had the opportunity to get it, and he wanted it his whole life, and he got it, and he's not just going to give it up. He's not just going to vacate it and go to another weight division once he's got it. I think that championship does actually mean something to him, and that's to his credit. He doesn't want to just hand it over. So I think he's willing to make the struggle, to make the weight, sacrifice, grind it out, do all the things that he has to do at the size he is to get down to the weight of 147 pounds on Friday.
Guy.
He's a big guy. And
he's bigger than Errol Spence.
It takes a lot mentally and, of course, physically for a guy his natural size to get down to 147 and then still do it correctly where he can fight 24 hours later and be effective. So the reason he's willing to do all that is because the title means something to him. Because the championship means something to him, and he's, again, not willing to just hand it off to the next guy because it's tough making weight. For Errol Spence's part, I believe that this now, in this moment in Sheffield, is what he's always known he was meant to do. And a guy on Saturday night, when the final bell rings, he will be the guy he's meant to be. That's what's going on in his head. For him, the fight is all been a moment that's built up his entire life. He's been in the Olympics. He's been successful his entire career. He's been a dedicated fighter. He doesn't get into trouble. He stays in the gym, not 6, 7 days a week. He's given everything that he had in his heart and his mind and the sacrifices that he had to make as a young man and the good decisions he had to make to stay on the right track has brought him to this moment. And if this moment has to be in the backyard of the championship opponent, if this means he's got to fly, across the pond and fight in a guy's backyard who's going to be bigger than him, who may not even make weight, or at least that was something that could have happened earlier. It seems like he will make weight now being Kell Brook. But if he didn't make weight, he was already telling me, Errol Spence, yesterday, that even if Kell Brook didn't make weight, he was still willing to take the fight. He was still going to fight that guy, and he still was going to get that championship on Saturday night. So you're looking at two guys who are absolutely determined to be world champions at 147 pounds on Saturday night when that final bell rings. And these two kind of individuals with these kind of mindsets, when they clash, it's got to be explosive.
It's going to be a huge fight and really significant because the welterweight division at the moment has you have Thurman at the top of it with the unified champion, and you have Kell Brook as one of the only other champion, I think. Kell Brook's the only other world champion at the moment, isn't he? Oh no, Pacquiao as well.
Well,
so
yeah, I mean,
they're potentially lining up fights against Thurman or even Khan maybe for Brooke.
I mean,
there's a lot on the line
Brooke
to get through
saga,
this.
drama, soap opera continues. Like, who knows if we ever get that fight at this point? That fight should have happened ages ago. I'm almost tired of talking about it now, and pretty soon it won't be relevant anymore. I don't think Brooke can stay at 47 too much longer, and it doesn't look like Khan is laying for this fight anytime soon. So that might be one of these great fights that just go down to the into the gutters of American and British boxing history. These things that never happened that should have, or we'll see it in like 5 years when they're both too old and it's too late, and we'll take it because we always wanted it, but it won't be what it once could have been.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the Kell Brook Amir Khan story.
So obviously you're talking about fights which might or not have ever got made. Recently we have one of those with Golovkin and Canelo that finally got made. I'm sure that brought a huge smile to your face when you heard that news.
Right.
How do you see that going down? Do you think they're going to do it in Vegas? They haven't announced a date yet, but it's also around the time that Mayweather and McGregor is meant to be happening, and that's another huge fight for boxing.
Well, I doubt that Mayweather-McGregor is going to happen at that time. Excuse me. Even though they've threatened to say, oh, we're going to challenge your date. We'll go at the same time and see what people want to see, or we'll take it a week ahead of you and this kind of thing. I don't even think McGregor and Mayweather, not even those guys, are that big a dick. Because that's a dick move. You know what I mean? Like, not because they can't take a share.
Yeah.
Even if they did it on the same night and make... Of course they can. They can cause major havoc to Triple G versus Canelo. But to spit in Triple G and Canelo's eye or Golden Boy's eye just for the sake of doing so at the expense of the boxing fan is to me, it guts me the idea that either one of those fighters would actually do something like that. Mayweather or McGregor. They're both, at their core decent guys. And I think when you step back and look at the only person that's really going to get hurt is the avid boxing fan. People don't have money to spend $89, $99 for the McGregor-Mayweather fight, and then the very next week, much less the same day, then go spend what's going to be $49.95 or $59.95 in HD for Canelo and Triple G. You're putting too much of a burden on the people who've supported you your entire career. The reason that all these people are millionaires is because the boxing fan, the blue-collar common man, breaks off some of his paycheck on a regular basis to pay not just the cable bill, but then over and above the cable bill so that he can see this one night of boxing. And you're going to stress that guy? You're going to go into that guy, double dip into his pockets in the same week just because you want to be a dick? I think neither McGregor nor Mayweather are that bad a guy. And so I have confidence that ultimately that won't happen.
As a boxing fan, do you want to see McGregor, Mayweather, or does that not interest you?
I would rather see it on a video game than see it in real life. I'd rather it be like something on PlayStation 6 or whatever PlayStation's out now. Like, me and my buddy maybe play. One guy picks McGregor, one guy picks Mayweather, and then it's an all rules kind of thing. Like maybe you allow kicks and punches, but no grappling. Something like that. Let's just make, if it's a circus, let's just make it a game. It's not a boxing match. It's not an MMA fight. It's a novelty act.
It's entertainment.
And, listen, when I was, it's entertainment. Exactly. But it's not a boxing match because you can't take a guy who's never fought in a boxing ring before with boxing rules and then the best living fighter and put them in the same ring on the same night and call that a boxing match. Yeah. It's absurd. So, when I was a kid, man, I loved the circus, but I haven't been in many years. And, I'm not brewing
Would you go to the fight?
Well, I don't know, man. I would probably have to go to the fight, but that would probably be the first time in this entire career where going to a fight was actually work. Because as much as I like to be entertained as much as anybody else, I think it would be a travesty if the fight was considered a sanctioned boxing match. Certainly not number 50 to break the record, for Floyd Mayweather. And if they put it in the context of exhibition that is purely entertainment, I can buy into that. But it really, to me, depends a lot on how they promote the fight. If they try to pull a stunt on us, try to play the shell game, try to pretend that this thing is something that it's not, it'll bother me so much. I'll go to work. I'll do my job, but I'll consider it, maybe the first night I've ever had to really go to work and not want to.
Who do you want to see Anthony Joshua fight next? There's been a lot of talk of a quick Klitschko rematch. There's obviously other champions out there, such as Wilder and Parker. What's your preference as a fan?
Well, I don't think we're going to have much choice from, what everyone's saying now. Eddie Hearn himself said it to me yesterday. It looks like it's going to be Klitschko and Joshua, too. Listen, it was a phenomenal night. A phenomenal night. Those guys put on an instant classic. It was a brawl. It was a war. It was a boxing match. It was a heavyweight title fight that delivered in every way a heavyweight title fight is meant to deliver. Will it deliver again? I don't think so. Not in that way.
It can't be as good as that time. It can't get better.
It could, but it won't.
Yeah.
I saw the best Klitschko's ever seen, even in defeat. He was better than I'd ever seen him. Can he do that again? Will Joshua go in and make the same mistakes? Joshua, he got knocked down. He was gassed. All of these things happened and that culminated on this one night, on this very special occasion. I almost wish they would just leave it in that capsule because I think that the second fight can't possibly live up to the first. And hey, listen, if I'm wrong, I'll be the first at the post-fight to say I was wrong. This thing is way better than I expected it to be. And I'm so glad that they did it again. But I'm telling you right here now today, I don't expect that to be the case. Now, from here on out, right until the post-fight, then the question will be, am I right or am I wrong? Is it better than it's the first time? Can it live up to the hype? Will Klitschko actually be able to mirror that performance? It won't be enough. If he mirrors the performance, what happened? He lost. So he has to be better?
Yeah.
Is Klitschko going to be better? That's a tall order out of a 42-year-old, heavyweight champion. Like this is not Benjamin Buttons. This guy's not going to get younger from today to the fight.
All right, so to end on, can you kind of give us, our listeners and viewers an idea of how does your week work when you're not doing boxing? What sort of media do you do? Do you do other projects? What sort of things are you working on at the moment?
Now, I watch TV and I eat steak in my living room. Okay. And I wait for the phone to ring again.
So, just lastly, actually, what was your favorite fight you've covered or been to?
That is a tough one. Okay. I got to give you two. I can't pick. But for different reasons, okay? Mike Alvarado and Brandon Rios fought at the StubHub Center in Carson, California. It's an outdoor venue. It's known for wars, mainly now because, well, not mainly, but one of the wars it's known for is the one I'm mentioning, the very first time those two faced off against each other. Okay. It was just such nonstop action. Like, when they say, you hear it all the time, neither fighter knows how to take a step back. Neither fighter took a step back. And this is one of those fights that wasn't, built to be some huge matchup. The StubHub's not some giant venue. It wasn't on pay-per-view. You just had to be there on the night, or you had to be tuned in to see live in color what ultimately turned into an instant classic and an epic war of wills. Those two guys on that night really laid it out, and that was one of the most entertaining, exciting, somewhat unexpected, full-on wars that I'd seen in person. Pacquiao Marquez 4, the infamous night on which Pacquiao went to sleep. Not because the way it ended was so thrilling. I mean, Pacquiao's a friend of mine. I like Marquez too, but, I didn't want to see him lose. I didn't want to see him knocked out, in a way where the hush falls over, friends and family in hope that he's okay. Like, that's a very scary moment. It would be scary if it had happened to Marquez. I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of fighters. You want to see a guy possibly injured. So that moment was terrifying. But the atmosphere in the building, the Mexicans who showed up on that night, I tell you this, and I tell everyone who asked me about it, they knew. They knew that night was theirs. And from the minute they walked in the building, they were ready for that moment. And the roof came off when that knockout happened. It was just one of the moments that I had been in an arena where the energy could literally feel like it was a second layer of clothing. Like, that's how real the energy in that room was. That's how thick that moment was, that it felt like it laid on you like a piece of clothing. And that was one of those magical nights that I actually was in the building for.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming in, and hopefully we'll see you next time in Sheffield.
You'll definitely see me next time in Sheffield. Thanks for having me. Sheffield University, putting out the next generation of talent, creating some more artists in my field and in many fields in mass media. You guys have to stick to your guns. Don't be intimidated by the forces that be. I don't care if you're covering politics or sports or whatever it is. You people are the next ones to shape history. And whoever is in front of your cameras or on the other side of that microphone, remember, it's your job to get out of them what they don't want to give you.
All right, well, thank you very much.